This is a pilot episode of a brand new pod from the Seed Club Network. We hope you enjoy it. Welcome to Inside Seed Club, your peek behind the curtain of the Internet Native Accelerator. Hey everyone, I'm Steph Linsig, media steward here at Seed Club, and I am with these two incredible people. Who's here?
Is it weird that I think that's the first time I've actually heard how to legitimately pronounce your last name? You're just like Crypto Honey and Steph and
same. Yeah, you've got the easy last name, Jess, and then the two of us, it's like IDK.
I have concern that Crypto Honey might have lost its charm. I'm like, am I on-chain honey now?
Oh.
Which
pour some
doesn't sound
honey
good.
on chain.
No.
It does not sound good.
Crypto will never go away. You can be Web3 honey, on-chain honey, account abstraction honey, but crypto
Internet native organization honey.
Exactly.
I'm trying on. All right, who are you folks?
I'm Nicole.
And I'm Jess.
These two are the co-creators over at Seed Club, in case you didn't know. They're not humoring me with my intro.
We're here to support this new initiative that we're calling Inside Seed Club with our whole hearts, which we are, but I feel like being a bit sassy here is kind of the fun part.
Welcome into our office.
We want to give people a little slice inside the organization, which is full of wonder and sarcasm and sparkliness.
So much sass.
A lot of sass.
Okay, I'm going to ask the question. What is Seed Club, but also what's happening? What's going on right now?
There's a lot going on
Nicole's face here.
It's the last month of the year. We just launched a new program because why not? What better time to try something new than in the last month of the year? Get your resolutions met. Okay, Seed Club. Who are we today? What are we? Internet native organization.
So this is actually really critical. I don't know if people are going to be able to see Jess's face right now, but he's like cringe smiling. And I think this is actually very juicy. Why is that cringe smile worthy?
Well, I think I'm cringe smiling our overall introduction to this podcast to a degree. And then also there's the depths there. So what's going on right now is 6 months ago, there was two groups of people. There was the people who felt very special and proper and excited because they understood the secret of crypto and Web3 and it was going to be the future. And then there was the vast majority of people who were looking at crypto and being like, this is a scam and you're all full of it and it's just money hungry speculative assets. And then we were all comfortable in our own little seats. And then I think as of the last 2 weeks, there's just a lot of, those people who are sitting on the outside pointing at everybody at schools on the inside think that they have been proven right. And the people sitting inside, I think those who are thoughtful, long-term, real human beings are sitting here and saying, okay, well, what is right? And maybe where did we go wrong? And where's that conviction in the future live? And so I think it's a really interesting time that has a big impact on everybody that's building in the space, especially for those folks who are going through their first bear market to really deeply appreciate what that means and all its many legs down and its drawn outness. So the cringe smile chunks up into this bigger question of what are we building here? What's the there? What is the thing that results from these new tools and the infrastructure that's been built over the last 4 years and over the last year or two? And how do we actually build something people want to be a part of that creates value and impact? And I think that's both the most exciting part of the moment we find ourselves in and also the challenging and exhausting and uncertain part as well. To me, that's the best way I can describe this moment in time. It's both going through that as individuals and then also having both the benefit and responsibility of going through that with a community of folks who are in different parts of their journeys of exploring how to build something people want to be a part of and to remake organizations and communities and economic models and all these very, very hard things, which is complicated during a bull market and also complicated in different ways during a bear market. So it's fun and kind of crazy. And the joke around on-chain or internet native or crypto or Web3, I think is one of, us trying to rally around language that actually properly articulates the delta between what could be built before and what might be built in the future.
Like you said, it's hard to remember in the bull for certain reasons. And then in the bear, I think reminding each other of it is incredibly important and really being specific. And that's where the language comes into play. But I think obviously that's also where our work comes into play. But, that's like ultimately what we're doing is we're working with these cohorts and groups of builders really meaningfully to advance their understanding and then apply that understanding into how they build and go out into the world. And then doing that sort of in these ripples, doing it with projects that come into our accelerator, doing it with our alumni, doing it with community members and contributors in those alumni communities, and then, doing it out into ripples within our community beyond that. Yeah, I think that it's really easy to forget the thing that we're doing or like why it is that we originally did this, because there's so much happening and there's so many things that you can do, but like ultimately it's like, oh, what's the core?
Yeah, I mean, C Club came out of this idea of like there being something interesting happening around culture and social capital and tokens, having conversations with a number of people that were building and running those experiments and seeing the same questions being asked time and time again. And the solution that we put forward, which was to build a community or a network of human beings that are exploring the edges of social crypto and DAOs and sort of the intersection of tokens and communities, was done because there was no clear answers, or at least once you answered one of those questions, a whole bunch of other questions emerged. And so what can happen over the bull market is you start to see these narratives reinforced to the point where they start to be believed as truths. And that's, whether that's in DAOs or that's in DeFi or that's in, I think it's happens in the economy generally, growth at all stakes, we'll always get another funding round. Like there's all these sort of narratives that all of a sudden become ingrained. And really, like, the reality is we're all building at the edges of a new technology of social and others. And so there are no clear answers, or at least the answers are always we're always in the pursuit of those answers. And our structure at C Club is designed to be able to play that game, right? We find brilliant human beings and teams who are pushing at their own edges. We bring as much support as possible to them, and together we learn how to go do things better. And if we look at the evolutions from our first cohort to our second, to our third, to our fourth, now to our fifth, those leaps have been massive. And along the way, not only have we built up that organizational understanding or network understanding, but we've also built up a community of incredible builders and founders who are asking tough questions and who are building for the long term and who are trying to solve the big challenges. So I think C Club as a DAO, as a sense-making network, as a mutual exploration club, as an on-chain organization, as a whatever we end up calling it, is the core is we're at our best when we're standing in the curiosity mindset rather than in the certainty mindset.
Well, on that thread, Jess, you were just away for 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, a lot had happened right before that 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, a lot also happened, both in the world of crypto, but also like here at C Club. And I think that a lot that happened maybe internally was like we had come into this final quarter of the year, again, just to kind of bring it back to Nicole, what you were highlighting as we're, recording this on December 2nd, the second day of the last month of the year. We came into this quarter just like raring to go. We are continuing to go after a handful of brand new initiatives. And that also meant that we were sort of pushing ourselves and our team pretty far across a lot of different initiatives. And what I hear you talking about just then, and also Nicole, what you were raising before, like you came back from that time away and there's a little bit of a shift in how we're thinking about things at C Club, and also in how we're supporting projects through this, this new phase. So how would you describe that shift, both for projects and also both internally for C Club?
I think that it's strange to be impacted by something that you can't necessarily tangibly feel or see, but like know is there. And I understand that like that's to varying degrees for different communities and for different projects. But I think, yeah, it's just interesting to see the mood and sort of like optimism change, but then to try to ground yourself in, okay, like what is actually still true here in what I'm building. To be clear, like we've definitely seen some knock-on effects and just sort of rippling impact for our projects. And we're having some real conversations with how one launches in this type of atmosphere. But I think it's also, there is sort of like this importance in staying anchored. It's sort of what I was talking about before of like, okay, this doesn't change some things, which is that we were building this thing that's really brilliant and interesting. And we have this amazing community of people around us that were interested in it. And those people are still going to be really interested in it. And so a lot of what we're doing is just doubling down on those pieces. And so I think that kind of what I referenced before, that like it's reminding us to kind of go back to the basics of, what is important. And it's some of the things that always were, that people can come together and be excited about doing something together and have that power to do it sort of technology or like silo agnostic, to, come together and start building and like put together technical Legos rather than sort of the technology having to inform the way that you're going to build. And so I think like that piece is really exciting and compelling, but I think that there's just like so much more of a need for support and cultivating like a really strong voice within our like greater Seed Club network to support what's obviously going to be a longer journey than many people anticipated.
And I think just to pass this off to Jess too, like this is something that Jess has been saying since you came back from your time in Mexico and Marfa, and you've also talked about in the latest episode of Building at the Edges with Jacob Horn, where a fundamental truth is still that we have to build things that people want to be a part of. And so that's essentially a version of what you're saying, Nicole, too. And yeah, Jess, what's your thoughts on that?
What's interesting at Seed Club is we're both trying to build a great example of, a community-owned network and this on-chain organization, or whatever word we want to use here, Steph, and also supporting others to do the same. And so I think there's sort of this constant loop. And when we're in a market where there's just so much going on, I think we need to focus on many different things and to be able to sort of be relevant and to be above the line as far as attention and create that value. So I think as an organization at Seed Club, we are doing many things. We have many new contributors. We're building product. We're building media. We're expanding our accelerator. We have a new sort of membership offering, all of which are in support of the same thing, which is like, how do we help builders build amazing DAOs that people want to be a part of? But I think very clearly that in any growth organization, like it's a lot of demands on people. And we've come through 2 years of that. I think as the market sort of shifts and sentiment shifts, you start to see in both good and bad ways a need to refocus on where that energy is going. Like the strength that you're pushing the gas pedal with during the bear market isn't going to have the same impact as sentiment changes. And this is very much a narrative-driven space, as like many things are, and so we have to sort of match that. So I think the benefit of that is like we have an opportunity to really focus in on the things that are going to create the most value and impact. And for us, that is supporting our teams and our builders. That is supporting and championing the space, the reasons why we are so convicted in this. And it's, again, sort of leaning into those experiments or explorations that we know will be useful for our network and also for the space more generally. So I think that's like the big shift. I think there's this feeling of needing to stay up to date and catch up. And it's actually, I think my avatar really should just be a yo-yo, right? I feel like I just, our pendulum swing back from one extreme to another. And I think the market cycles feel like that too, which is like, it's go, go, go. You can never do enough. There's too much opportunity out there. You'll never go to one where it's like, oh, no matter what I do, is that really having any impact? Is anybody really paying attention? And that's maybe extreme, because I think what is really notable for me right now is just seeing how much of a there is here today. Like I was around in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And this is a barren wasteland back then compared to just the immense amount of energy and excitement and action and builders and infrastructure and stuff that's happening today. So yeah, I think, there's that. And then for us, so that focus really is around, how do we build something that people truly want to be a part of and get immense value from being a part of? And I think it's very easy to be focused on tokens and on attention and on, some of the things that I think weren't wrong to focus on when that attention was there. I think teams that capitalize themselves or were able to build an audience using tokens are in a good place today. But, when the market sort of is no longer as interested in that, then we really need to sort of fall back on that thing that we need to be doing no matter where the market is, which is building something people want to be a part of. Where's the momentum? Where's the value that you get from being a part of it? How do I make people feel special when they join the community? How do we continue to push forward meaningful learnings, lessons, experiences for people such that they want to buy a ticket, they want to hold on to a ticket, they want to be a part of this thing and not just passively be a part of it. But I think the opportunity today is to pull people deep into an organization to be a part of making something new or evolving something. And I think that's another thing that was very hard to do as the market is frothy and bull market like. Joining a Bored Ape Yacht Club when everything was a couple $100,000, really not an appealing thing. I think joining something from the ground floor that's aligned with your values and that you can have a real impact on is incredibly compelling. And I think we're back in a world where more of those opportunities will exist.
Yeah, I think the other piece, and we got into this in the accelerator yesterday, is around decision making as a group. And I think that those pieces, especially as there's less resources, as there's harder decisions to make, I think that how communities make decisions and discover information or understand information collectively and then act on it is this like extremely fundamental human behavior. Clearly humans still haven't, we haven't gotten to end game as far as sort of how we do this as a human species. And I think that what's so interesting to me as somebody who's been participating in participatory democracy at all levels for like decades is just how interested people are in doing this and finding and pushing the edges of what technology can do for this process of how do we understand what a group of people think, how do they sense make and share information collectively, especially when there's, more decentralization, and then how do they make good decisions. And so I think that that has been and will continue to be a really interesting piece. And like I think that again, as we sort of just completely take speculation and the other side of tokens out of the equation right now. And yeah, just like you said, like, I think that it was great to see tokens and communities building value and being able to like represent the value that they create. But I think that the other side of the pendulum right now is that there's just a ton of people thinking and talking about how do we understand what's going on in our community? How do we understand what different people think? And then how do we make good decisions? And in some cases, hard decisions, because like hard decisions have to be made in bear markets. And so I think that that piece is going to be really interesting. And I think is in some ways, I mean, not to be perhaps like too grandiose about it, but I think is just an interesting thing for humans to be doing generally at this point, sort of in development, because I think that, like globally, we see a lot of failed systems of doing that. And so the fact that people still want to do that and participate in that is surprising and pretty phenomenal.
I just want to say that earlier when Jess was talking about the yo-yo being his avatar, obviously the audio listeners can't see, but Nicole, we were all laughing. So I think, and we laugh out of love. We laugh out of deep love. And I'm making Jess deeply uncomfortable right now, but this is the whole point of this, right?
There's no such thing.
No such thing. Yeah. I would love for you two to like get a little bit more into decision making. And I think this thread about my experience of being a first-time wayfinder for the accelerator and the questions that a lot of the projects were asking me was around like, okay, what is the best token model to enable X kind of governance, X kind of decision making? And my answer was always like, okay, one, we'll go talk to Jess. But really also was like, I think there's also like almost like two separate things to be considered there, because there's so much of governance, even in on-chain organizations, even in internet native organizations, whatever the word is, there's so much like governance that happens off-chain that is like social consensus or so just like we're doing right here. There's decisions being made right now as we're sitting here, right? Yeah. So I'd love for you two to kind of pull on that thread.
I mean, we did a little experiment this first quarter. We put our budget and our priorities up. What we discovered is that it took us about 2 months to do that for a 3-month period of execution. So that was a good learning. I think we'll get better at those reps. And also, I think that we learned that maybe a 3-month period to sort of put to the community is probably, as it turns out, too short. So what that was basically an experiment of what are the important things for on-chain governance and participation and visibility to, have insight into. In doing that too, I think that shout out to our fave, Kristen, she said something about like, what is the right amount of information? And, so like when we did that, there was this like, well, we need more information. There's sort of like questions around like, we need more information about this, about this, about this, about this. And we were trying to figure out like what is the right amount of information that we share. But I really appreciated Kristen's sort of like other pendulum swing of, how does a community think about what the right amount of information they need is all of the information always the best, and what's like the sort of cost or trade-off of that, of like everybody needing all of the information all the time. Can you drive work forward in that kind of organization? So yeah, it was a good experiment, and we'll see what we do next time.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the biggest challenge, and it's a challenge that we have as well, is like thinking about what is the right time horizon to design for. And I think there's sort of this belief in governance processes or in economic models or token models that we need to have it all figured out to start. And I think it's because there are some really great examples. I think like the epitome of it, we just to have a very clear, model that works perfectly for what you're trying to go do. And you can see the little glimpses of that, right? The nouns model is a beautiful productized model that works and is working well for nouns. And, you can probably see that in some other DeFi DAOs and stuff as well. But the reality is most folks that are trying to do more complicated things are still searching for that product, right? That model. I mean, we definitely feel like that at C Club, right? Like there's definitely a big vision we're driving towards, and also we're still early, right? This is still the very first innings of these governance models and economic models, et cetera. So I think what's difficult is teams want to try to design for, they're not acknowledging they're designing for something that is completely unknowable. And so we take much too long of a time horizon or take too long trying to design the thing rather than getting in market, solving the first challenge and moving forward. So I think like really what teams are asking for is like, or we ask teams back is like, what are you trying to optimize for? And usually it's around, I want community to feel a deeper sense of ownership and responsibility over what we're building. I want them to have the ability to earn that in some way so that they're incentivized to do more work and are actually rewarded for the work that they have. And we want to distribute decision-making between our members. So it's not just an individual who's making those decisions, but we can actually lean into the benefit of this group that we have here. And then maybe third or fourth, whatever number I'm on there, we would love to populate a treasury so that we have some capital to go do things like that. And so when you start to line up what are like the immediate things we need to go design for, then all of a sudden governance models and token models really start to become a lot more clear. And I think the reality is, unlike if you're trying to build the vending machine that is Ethereum or Bitcoin or Aave, I mean, and even in that is maybe a weak example, like assuming you have the social capital within your organization to make big changes, you will be able to evolve your token model. You can go from an NFT that just represents early membership and is a signal of support to an NFT that represents full-on governance and is used to build a treasury or to launch a nouns type model or to launch an ERC20 token. You have a whole lot of flexibility. In fact, we're always encouraging teams to design their governance models and their token models with that flexibility in mind, because a community of 50 people or 100 people versus 10,000 people is a very, very different beast. We're talking about yo-yos or pendulums, like that's really what it is, right? Like, and maybe it's this divergent, convergent sort of design thinking model here that's maybe more useful, right? Where we say, okay, well, what is the realm of possibilities that we should be designing for? What is the most relevant? Let's go focus in on how to bring closure to that such that we are in a better place to open up exploration of what the next thing is. And if I look at how C Club is designing its governance and token model, if I look at the most promising DAOs and communities in our ecosystem, they're all going through some version of that. There's a blog post there somewhere, right? How to design a...
Oh, Jess has to write a blog post? Hold on a second. Hold on.
Stop the presses, literally.
We got that in there.
So this is Inside C Club.
This is Inside C Club, exactly.
The sass that I get
Put it on chain.
For writing blog posts but never publishing them is immense. And I'm just going to own them right now. Look at this. I'm not even uncomfortable taking that heat right now.
All right, tell us about this blog post that we are probably never going to see, but we are all very thirsty for. So what was that blog post?
So it's a blog post on why NFTs are better tokens for early communities or for DAOs. It makes three simple points. One, that there's a stronger cultural association with NFTs, and really building something people want to be a part of is more akin to building a movement or than it is to building a specific product. Imagine we say, you want to have a ticket to the big adventure that the DAO is articulating. An NFT just is a far better ticket than a bucket of tokens that are ERC20s. Like there's a cultural association with it. Two, there's sort of this, seems to be a little bit more freedom in DAOs being able to actually auction off these NFTs or distribute or launch these NFTs as a way to populate a treasury. Though, again, you need to be careful about how you structure those things. So not a lawyer, not your lawyer, be very thoughtful about that. And then third is, the fact that those tokens can be traded on OpenSea or on, bought and sold in more traditional marketplaces, and teams don't have to go through setting up or incentivizing liquidity pools, et cetera, to have maybe a minimal amount of liquidity on these tokens that allows people to buy in or to leave should they want to. So that's sort of the reason. I think the challenge I have in writing that post is that, okay, maybe this is my therapy session with you, Steph, is as soon as I wrote it, I'm like, this is not interesting. That's not useful. Everybody knows that already. The interesting thing is the next thing is say, okay, well, how do you go do that? Well, what is the organizational structure that comes up? And then all of a sudden I have this 42-page doc that's trying to pull into all those sort of things that literally makes no sense. And it's just, Charlie in front of the conspiracy theory red line thing here. So
that's my favorite place to be.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and
I have so many Post-its in front of me, literally.
Oh, Nicole is the Post-it queen, actually. Like real live Post-its. Like, can you just like hold one up even we just got to see it. Yeah. Okay. Look, there's a stack of Post-its and you can
Oh
hear it.
no, you don't have the accordion ones. You can't.
They're left over from our retreat.
Those are no.
Nicole, I
I
stand
know
by.
they are, and I hate that does
Yeah,
it.
how many
stand
did
by
you
your
bring,
accordion
Jess?
Post-its.
None, because I flew across the bloody country and had to deal with time zones, and it wasn't like 4 minutes from my house. So how about that? How about that? How about that for a second?
Yeah, how many
the
did
Post-its
good
persist.
COVID times flying across.
The Post-its persist. Well, I think actually this is a great segue, right? We talked about our offsite we had in September. This is a little bit of our experience inside Seed Club, right? Is that there's one version where it's just like that Charlie meme, things just go kind of in all the directions and then we kind of contract and come back and focus. Nicole has got all the wild Post-its and then like occasionally we'll tweet some hot takes that are from the Post-its and like those tweets are excellent. Let's keep it focused on the next couple weeks. What are we doing in the next couple weeks? Why does it matter?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot happening at Seed Club in this last month. But I think that I'm very excited about is that despite all of the, uncertainty in ways that we could design our token model and what the ecosystem is doing generally and all of these things that we've got, still like just all of these amazing individuals that are building so many incredible things and asking and showing up to answer really hard questions. And so, yeah, we've got a demo day for our accelerator coming up in exactly 2 weeks and 10 minutes.
2 weeks, demo day.
That's going to be killer. Metaversal and sweaty and punch in the air and just, yeah, as exciting as it can be. So really pumped about that. Capping off 12 hard weeks of building and asking questions and growing their communities. And then on top of that, we've got our member network, which is specific to our alumni. And so we're starting to bring folks together in something that we built where people outside of Discord, outside of any other sort of noisy application can come to this Seed Club native place and connect with each other and be in community with each other. Ask these really thorny, confusing questions in a safe place just with each other and have that like really high trust, high signal, many to many networked experience. So super stoked about that. And then we decided that things were, boring, slow, and that we could do more.
We weren't doing enough.
Yeah.
Really.
Finally, you recognize that.
And so we launched a few other things. I am gonna turn the mic on you in a sec, Steph. But yeah, one of the things that we're doing is Greenhouse. So we're closing right now. In literally 10 minutes, I'm gonna go and chat with contributors and members that are part of our alumni communities. But it's mostly folks that I hadn't met or hadn't connected deeply with. These aren't, the original founders of the projects, but they're the ones who are on the ground day to day building and participating. And, there's a lot of questions and work to be done and learning to be done there as well. And so we're doing that actively within Seed Club. And so it's been great bringing that into our alumni community and learning and working with them. So yeah, in 3 more weeks, they're going to be sharing and publishing a little bit of a report artifact of their time together. And I think it's like 15 to 16 alumni communities, what happens when all of these folks come together and talk about their experiences and share out. So I'm pretty stoked on that.
And this initiative is called Greenhouse.
Greenhouse. Because we love a gardening
and
meme.
How did that name stick?
I was waiting. I was like, when is Jess gonna like emerge,
rage,
and be like, why rage about the names?
Steph, you're working on a little situation too.
We're working on a little situation. I'm not sure how much we want to divulge right now, but basically media's working on some really excellent things, some big excellent things, and I mean, continually excited for when we can sort of like remove the chrysalis and share more. But yeah, just on the Greenhouse piece, we're going to have Myrna on for an episode in a couple of weeks, and we can talk more about those learnings, especially as you've gotten a couple weeks in. So pretty stoked to do that.
Dr. Myrna, can't wait to chat with her.
Yeah, we're here. We're well set up to go build from today well into the future. We have incredible teams who have the resources and brilliance to go build and create these examples of DAOs and communities. And we're going to be right beside them, supporting them through the ups and downs of whatever the next few months and years has to hold. And all our team has been working tirelessly on building the infrastructure and the support systems to both support our existing alumni and also the community at large. And that's both around, how do we get better and better at supporting builders? It's how do we get better and better at bringing new talent and energy and excitement into the space? It's how do we get better and better at bringing resources to our teams? We've had incredible success with our fundraising concierge, and the team over at C Club Ventures is doing incredible work as well. And so we have a whole ecosystem that's bubbling up that has just, I think, felt a little disparate, just to make sure I'm articulating that clearly. No desperates, but increasingly people will start to see those things coming together and see the potency of impacts that all the different things that we've sort of started off in their own different directions coming together will have. That's probably what I'm most excited about over the next 3 to 6 months, is just to see a reconstitution of energy and effort and attention around just the amazing people and projects that are truly making exceptional experiences in Web3. And C Club just has the absolute privilege of being involved in so many of them.
The privilege of a front row seat. Well, thanks, y'all. Thanks for carving out this funny little hour for us on a Friday, 2nd day of December, 2 weeks from demo day.
It's snowing.
It's snowing where Jess is.
Like very hard here right now.
I'm jelly.
Thanks for listening to Inside C Club. If you liked what you heard today, please rate us and leave us a review. This helps other Web3 builders discover these insights. Subscribe to Inside C Club to get the latest episode dropped right into your feed. And let us know what you think on Twitter. We're at C Club HQ. See you on the internet.